All right, good morning. Can everybody hear me? All right, this is our first time doing everything in the sessions room, so I just wanted to give everybody a chance to join and make sure everybody was jumping in here that was planning to. So we'll just give this about 1 or 2 more minutes, and then we'll get started. All right, good morning, everybody. Hope everyone's ready to get started. Welcome to EEConference 2021, the fall edition. We were able to do a spring edition this year, and that was pretty awesome. But now we are back to our regularly scheduled fall programming. Of course, we wish that we were in person. We had really hoped and waited till the last minute to see if we could do this in person. But it is what it is, and we're just excited to see everyone's face again. We've got a couple of full packed days in front of us with sessions today and tomorrow. A lot of feedback we got was that people wanted a little bit more space in between sessions, so we allowed for that as much as possible. But we are excited to hang out with the community, to see everyone's face again, to see all the banter and all the talk in the chat, and all that. So speaking of which, let's get things started with our code of conduct. So as everybody knows, we are a community at the core. This is all about the ExpressionEngine community. A lot of you guys have been in the community way longer than I have, for many, many years. And the community is what makes ExpressionEngine great. And I think everybody here would agree with that. One thing, of course, is to keep a good community. And for those of you who are new to the community, we always want to treat each other with respect. We always want to be kind to each other, encourage each other, help each other out wherever possible. So that we do ask that you follow the code of conduct for the conference, and that's at eeconf.com/code of conduct. And you can also report any violations of that anonymously there, and a conference team member will handle that appropriately. Next up, I'm going to try to go through these pretty quickly. I know everybody loves hearing all my opening remarks every time, but is the agenda. You can go to eeconference.com/#agenda, or I think that'll kind of work. In the reception area up there, you can click on reception and agenda, and that has the agenda for all of today and tomorrow's events. Of course, last minute, there was some issues with the day one agenda on the EEConference website. So if that's not there, like I said, just go to reception area and click on agenda, and you'll see everything you need to see there. And also, like I said, take note that there is a little bit more space in between sessions than we usually have. So hopefully you'll go hang out with others or go take breaks as needed, all that kind of fun stuff. All right. So if you're here, you found your way to the sessions section of the event. But this year we have no, if you remember last year we had the stage and then we had sessions and it was back and forth. We eliminated all that. It's just the sessions this year. So everything you'll need will be in the sessions. When an event is live, so when it's time on the agenda to start, that is when it will show up in the sessions, and you can click on that and join that event when it gets started. And you can join anytime once it gets started. We are going to try to give everybody a few minutes to click the link, for the link to show up, and then join before we start the session. But we just feel that sessions are the best way to present for the conference we want. All right. If you want to chat, not only are we here in the chat in Hopin, but we're also in the EECMS Slack. So you can go to the EECMS Slack, click on EEConference, and there's always lots happening over there as well. If you're not part of that, then you join it. You can go to ExpressionEngine.com, find the community link to join the Slack community, fill that out, and you will get added to the EECMS Slack by one of the ExpressionEngine team members. Great community over there, constantly helping each other out, constantly getting answers to problems. You have the ExpressionEngine team on there. You have some people who are incredibly knowledgeable about ExpressionEngine, about web development, about business even, and they're sharing ideas and helping each other out. One of the core places of the community throughout the year is the Slack channel. So I encourage you to join there. And of course, to join on there and chat with other conference team members or conference attendees as well. All right, procedures for questions. So we want you guys to treat this as much as you can like it's an in-person event. And I'm sure with 2020 and now 2021, latter half of this year, every event you go to says that. I know we're all kind of tired of the Zoom meetings and all that kind of fun stuff, but we want this to be as interactive as possible. And that's one reason that we use the sessions room. The session room makes it easy for people to share their audio and video. In fact, right now I can see several people have requested to share their audio and video. And that's great. We're not going to do that right now. But when there's a Q&A time or tomorrow during the open discussions, we definitely want you guys to share your audio and video to ask questions whenever possible. So just post in that sessions chat. Just let the moderator know, hey, I've got a question. Then go ahead and press the share audio and video button. And then the moderator will let you in once it's time to do that. And then you can speak and chat with the presenter, chat with other attendees. And it's just a lot more interactive. We get to know each other, all that kind of fun stuff. One important thing to note that's confusing about Hopin, for some reason, to stop sharing your audio and video, you press leave. It's not going to kick you out of the session. It's just going to kick you basically off the stage to where you're not sharing audio and video, but you'll still be in the room, still in the session. So that's a little confusing. Just click that leave button once you've asked your question or had your discussion, and then move on. Tomorrow, very important programming note. We are going to try something new tomorrow afternoon. In the past, we've had those roundtable discussions, which are always great. But one thing that we know is when we do those roundtable discussions, we're basically saying, here are the 5 experts in the room. The reality is a lot of you guys are experts, and a lot of you guys may not be experts in everything, but you have little pieces or little nuggets of information that can really help other people. And we're all experts in some area. Somewhere you have that one piece of information that someone else is looking for. So tomorrow, this is going to be a big part of that discussion tomorrow afternoon. Whether you're in the business discussion or the developer discussion, it's going to be an open floor discussion. So we'll have a conference team member moderate it. But in reality, we want you guys to come to those sessions ready to ask questions, talk about problems, anything like that, and just discuss with other community members how to solve those and what you've done in your business or what you've done to help your dev team. Maybe you're a dev lead or you're a freelancer or something like that. Guys, again, the community, if you go on Slack, if you go on our forums, there is such a wealth of information from ExpressionEngine community. You guys are amazing, and you guys have answers for each other and can help each other out. So that's really what that's going to be. That's going to be a moderated discussion where we encourage many people to share their audio and video at one time and really chat about these things that are troubling you or you would like some ideas on or anything like that. All right, so questions. So again, you're going to use that audio video to ask questions. If you must, and you just do not want to share your audio and video, it is okay. But what we ask is that you use the Q&A feature, which you'll see over that way next to the chat. I see a lot of you guys chat in this session. There's a Q&A button. Click on that Q&A button, post your question on there. Other users can, or other attendees can vote on that, so we can see which are the most popular questions to get to first and which one has the most interest when we're running out of time, those kind of things. And the moderator will moderate that and then bring those up as necessary. Try to avoid putting your questions in the general chat. They just get lost, and we're scrolling back and forth trying to find those. So please do use that Q&A feature. And one thing you'll notice is that in the chat, there's two chats. One is the event, and one is for the particular session. You'll notice that if you're in the event chat, it is just chat. However, sessions typically have chat polls and Q&A. So that's where you want to be. If you're trying to look for that Q&A and you don't see it, you're probably in the event, not the session. Tomorrow afternoon at the closing remarks, we will announce our annual ExpressionEngine website awards and add-on awards. So you'll miss your handshake from Ben, I know, because we're not in person, but that's going to be tomorrow afternoon. If you have a site or an add-on that you think is worthy of an award, or you know somebody who has something that's worthy of an award, go ahead and submit those. They need to be submitted before tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So you have just about 24 hours to get those in. There's categories for best overall EE website, best nonprofit EE website, best self-promotion website, best add-on. So go ahead and if you go again to reception, there's a link, or most of you guys probably got an email yesterday with the link to submit awards. Go ahead and submit those awards, and we're going to announce those tomorrow afternoon. Always a source of pride and fun and all that every year. Conference feedback. Throughout the conference, we'd like for you guys to give speaker feedback. So if you go to eeconference.com/speaker feedback, you'll be able to submit feedback on a particular speaker. Just let us know who it was, and then some things you like, dislike, all that kind of stuff. Speakers always want to improve. So a good critique is always helpful. It helps them improve their next presentation. It helps us to review speakers and give tips to future conference presenters on what works, what doesn't work, all that kind of stuff. And then after the conference, general conference feedback as well is always super helpful. All right, conference committee. So for the past few years, there's been a group of us who have put on this conference. These are some super hardworking guys and gals. They tirelessly and effortlessly or relentlessly work throughout the year to make this happen. It's definitely not effortlessly by any stretch of the imagination. They're probably laughing when I accidentally said that. But we've got Paul, Brian, Lydia, Jeremy, Ben, TJ, Josh Connor, Josh Broadlight, and myself. Volunteers throughout the year. They do not get paid to do this. This conference is a nonprofit conference. We do not make any profit from it, anything like that. So if you see them throughout the next couple of days or even later on Slack, just let them know thank you. Just give them a virtual high five, a pat on the back, whatever you can. Tell them thank you in the Hangouts, that kind of stuff, because they work all year round to make this happen. This year was especially kind of extra effort with the spring conference, and then we've done some community meetups, which we hope to continue. Hope you guys have enjoyed those. But they constantly work out. But also feel free to let any of them know if you need anything. We're here to serve the community, and that's the purpose of our group. Is we want to serve you guys. We want to put forth stuff that's going to help the community grow, help the community learn. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts, feel free to go to EEC Mess. You can add us to any of their names to DM us. Most of the guys have EE Conference Organizer next to their name, so you'll know that. But feel free to find them in Slack and ping them and let know if you need anything at all. All right, speaking of letting people know or saying hi, all that kind of stuff, the lounges, again, over in the sessions. If you haven't figured out, that's where most of the stuff is. We have 2 hangout rooms that are going to be open all day. That's Jub Hangout Room 1 and 2. We want to thank Lydia and Jub for their constant support of the community. Those rooms are open all day long. I think some of you guys were already hanging out in those this morning. That's just go in there, share your audio and videos, say hi, chat with everybody like you're passing people in the halls at the conference kind of thing. In between sessions, go over there, hang out, talk about what you liked, what you didn't like, or just catch up, see how people are doing. All that. And then at 5 o'clock tonight, we'll have our annual happy hour. So grab your beverage of choice and some food and hang out, catch up, chat about day one, build our community, all that kind of stuff. That's going to be at 5 o'clock today. And again, head on over to the sessions. And I think we have 2 happy hour rooms that will open up. Of course, you can just hang out in the hangouts as well too. But again, we thank Jub for their constant support of the community. And of course, Lydia is one of the conference team members. All right. Speaking of support of the community, we could not do this without our sponsors. Our sponsors, some of these guys have sponsored year after year. Just amazing supporters of the community. Be sure to go to the expo and a few of the sponsors you'll see on the left panel under sessions. There's an expo. Have set up little expo booths where you can go and get more information about them if you don't know about the company. But again, if you see any of these guys, be sure to tell them thank you. So our gold sponsors, Consumer 51, ExpressionEngine, who helped make this free for everybody, Foster Made, Hop Studios. Silver sponsors, Green Egg Media, Triple Nerd Score. Our bronze sponsors, Aquarian, Web Studio, DigitalOcean, and JetBrains. And our friends of EE, these guys donate money and they just do it for the love and to help support Creative Arc and IC360. Represented currently in the chat. I think both of those are chatting over there. So thank you guys for your support. Thank you for all you do, all you sponsors. We couldn't do this without you guys, especially when it gets to the in-person conferences next year. Your support is everything. And even if you're not a sponsor, I've got to do the, beg for money kind of thing, but not quite begging for money, but if you feel led to donate, please go to the EEConf website, EEConf.com, click on the donate button and share a gift with us. That would be most appreciated. Again, preparing for in-person conferences next year. These things are not cheap to put on, and every little bit helps. Every little bit helps us do more for the community. So if you get a chance, please donate over there as well. All right, almost done here. Robert Earhart. So a lot of you guys knew Robert. We want to take a few minutes just to remember him. He was foundational to this community. I unfortunately never had the chance to meet him, but I can tell you 100% that I have been influenced by him through people that he influenced and touched directly. I know over the last few weeks, there have been many good stories shared on Twitter, on different memory websites and EE Slack, all that kind of stuff. Robert, I don't even know that we would be here right now doing this without Robert's influence. He started the first EE conference back in the early 2000s when it was EECI, again, before my time. So I just thought it was the right thing to do for us to remember him, to pay our respects to him, to his family, for you guys to share your stories. I think some other speakers are going to probably mention him throughout the conference. Definitely in the Hangouts, share your stories about him. Keep him alive as far as memory goes. What he was about from all accounts. I don't think I've seen an ill word ever spoken about the man. So just a pillar of our community, foundational to where we are today, and a great example of what makes this community great. So Robert Earhart, just lost him a couple of weeks ago. So important to us. All right, and with that, are you guys ready to go? So right now in this session room, I'm not going to make you work too hard. You get to stay in your seats. We have Tom Jaeger of ExpressionEngine team. And so when he's ready, he is going to share his audio and video. And we are going to start with a bang. Everyone's been waiting to see what all the fuss is about with ExpressionEngine Pro, what is happening, when are we going to get our hands on it, all that kind of fun stuff. And here is Tom now. So with that, I am going to pass it over to Tom. Thanks, everybody. See you guys later.
Thank you, Andy. Can everybody hear me? Awesome. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get started. All right. So, as Andy said, welcome to EEConf. We are all excited to be here. As Andy mentioned, my name is Tom Jaeger. For those who don't know me, I am the president of Packetide, the company behind ExpressionEngine and EE Harbor. I'm also the co-founder of Harpoon app, which is a financial insight application. Before we get started, I feel like it's appropriate to just say thank you. Specifically to the EECA, they do work hard behind the scenes. I've gotten a little bit of a glimpse of that. They meet regularly. Putting on a conference is no small undertaking. I feel like the last 2 years or so, I've personally realized that more and more, and kind of reflected and said, that's why I think so many speakers thank them, because they get a glimpse of it, and it is no small undertaking. Similarly, thank you to everybody who's worked tirelessly, both the EECA and presenters, not just for this conference, but for the monthly meetups. I think it's been really cool to see the community come together like that, to be able to sharpen one another, learn from one another, but also just continue to build, bonds and friendships. So thank you. All right. So ExpressionEngine 6.0. Last year, I had the privilege of announcing ExpressionEngine 6 at the conference. The reception of 6.0, it's really been phenomenal. I don't believe there's a week that's gone by where someone hasn't said something to us about how much of a step forward version 6 is, or how much they appreciate it. And we really appreciate that feedback. If you have some, we'd love to hear it. Recently though, I did hear a story that was a bit funny, so I thought it was worth sharing. I was chatting with an agency owner, and she had a client who was running an ExpressionEngine 1 site. And over the years, they'd met with this client several times and just encouraged them to upgrade. So, version 2 came out, and they met with their client and they said, hey, here's version 2, you should really upgrade. The client, said no. So version 3 came out, and they said, okay, let's go meet with the client again. So they met with their client and said, hey, here's version 3, you should really upgrade. It's been quite a long time. And the client, still said no. So they went back with version 4 and with version 5, and much to their dismay, the client never did upgrade. Recently, however, they met with their client, and kind of as was their custom, if you will, and showed them version 6 and what it had to offer and the control panel. And the client's response was, I guess it's good we've waited this long to upgrade. So while it's a little humorous, it's not really best practice to wait that long to upgrade. Kind of feel like I need to work that in there real quick, to be honest. But it really doesn't buy a lot of the feedback we've been getting on version 6. And this year, I have the privilege of announcing ExpressionEngine 6.1 and Pro. So, I say this is a privilege because, behind the scenes, one of the core concepts that we embody and embrace as a business is that if you disagree with a decision or direction that we're taking, we require that somebody speaks that, and if necessary, even argues their perspective and their point. In fact, as a company, we hold this as such high importance, that if somebody doesn't voice their concern of the direction we're heading, and then ultimately comes back and says, like, oh, I knew that wasn't going to work, or something along those lines, we actually consider that a passive sabotage and a betrayal to the team. So while I get the privilege of announcing 6.1 and Pro, the reality is that it's a team undertaking. And it's not just our team. There's Andy Johnson and Doug Black, who have played huge roles in both of these products as well, these releases. But these are the results of thousands of decisions, conversations, and ultimately, yes, a few arguments that have led us to the products that we have today and that we're going to be sharing. So, all right, let's jump into 6.1 for starters. So In 6.0, we had worked with CK Editor to get a license that would allow us to distribute CK Editor with ExpressionEngine, since ExpressionEngine's open source. In 6.1, we're happy to announce that we've also worked with Impervi, I'm not sure if I'm saying the company name correctly, to allow us to distribute React inside ExpressionEngine as well. So in 6.1, Redactor, will be shipping as another option for the rich text editor. If you take a look at the screenshot I'm sharing, in the bottom right, you'll notice that when you edit a rich text editor, you can now choose from a Redactor or a CK-based WYSIWYG. Similarly, right below that, you'll notice that there is a edit configurations. If you click that, it will bring you to the top right screenshot where you can edit the configuration of the WYSIWYG. As many people know and found out with CK Editor 5, CK Editor 5 by default does not allow you to edit the HTML source of a WYSIWYG field. That is an intentional decision they made. We're happy to share that Redactor does. We've heard a lot of people mention that they would like that. So the left-hand screenshot is an example of Redactor with the edit mode up. All right, so let's keep moving through 6.1 here. In version 6.0, we had the initial release of the new command line interface. In 6.1, we are happy to share that it's taken a major step forward. The command line interface really delivers a lot of power, and a lot of these commands ultimately will help developers get to the heart of their work faster. I have a quick video I want to share. In this video, we're going to do the following three things. We're going to generate an add-on, we're going to make a migration, and we're going to add a model to our generated add-on. So I'll go ahead and share this. And I haven't actually done this in happened before, so let's see how it goes. All right. All right, so I have the chat up right now. I'm not sure how many people are having issues or not. Can people see my screen fine before we continue? All right, seeing a little bit of a mix, but a lot of yeses. So we'll keep going here. All right. So CLI updates. This is a example of the list command in the CLI. You know, right off the bat in 6.1, there are three new sections. There is a cache section, a make, and a migrate. I want to call out just a couple commands in a few of these sections. The make add-on command. This command will bring you through a series of prompts. It takes roughly 10 or 15 seconds. You know, ask you what type of add-on you want, if it's an extension, hooks, things like that. But will ultimately give you a full-blown shell, working shell of an add-on that you can just get started with. So greatly expedites that process, if you will. The make command option. I want to call this one out because this allows you to make your own CLI command. And CLI commands are very useful when you have a long-running process. PHP on the command line actually doesn't have a timeout. So it allows you to run beyond a web request, if you will, and keep things moving, if you will. Make migration. I want to call that out real quick by way of background. What is a migration? A migration is most commonly used to make database changes. They all have an up and a down component, if you will, or method. And basically, it will apply or revert changes. So you can say, hey, if I'm going to run an up command, you know, modify the database in this way, and then the down command would reverse that or revert those changes. So we have the ability in 6.1 to have migrations both on the core level and in add-ons. The make prolet, we'll cover that later. You know, there's one quick item I want to make mention of. At last year's conference, I had made mention that in 6.0, we made it significantly easier for add-ons to support live preview. Today we're going to see a little bit of what that's resulted in. But similarly, the addition of migrations today and what we're adding in 6.1 will likely lead to some pretty cool stuff down the road. All right, so in addition to this, 6.1 will also be shipping with native Recapture, specifically version 3, Recapture Support, I should say. We chose version 3 because it has better accessibility as a whole. In the top right, you'll see breadcrumbs. They're being rolled out more broadly across the control panel as a whole, most notably back in the entries area. We know that people have wanted that, so that is present in 6.1. There's also a new requests add-on. This add-on allows you to access things like get, post, cookies, IP addresses, user agents, request headers, all in the templates. So this is one of those things that we had seen come up several times over the last year or so, and we thought it made sense to add it to the core. In addition to this, there's some very major changes to how we handle cookies. These changes largely came out of the public meeting we had. Thank you to those who participated in that meeting. I think we had about 25 people participate in it. So some of what's come out of that is we now log all consents, including guests. We removed as many cookies as possible. We converted all front-end cookies to be session cookies, and we added consent versioning to the audit log. At the bottom there, Command S. I know it's a bit of a small one. Something that we wanted, I think particularly Yuri really wanted, was the ability to hit Command S to save an entry or a template as a whole. Beyond this, in 6.1, the image modifiers that were introduced in version 6.0 can now be applied to category images. Live preview can be disabled on a given channel. There's a ton of UI improvements, bug fixes, and a good number of security fixes as well. There's a lot more beyond that as well. All right, so let's shift our focus to Pro. When we first started thinking through Pro, I'm going to just make sure my screen share is happening, actually. It is. Okay, cool. I just had a thought there real quick that I might not have clicked the screen I wanted. All right, let's shift our focus to Pro. When we first started thinking through Pro and what it would be, we set for ourselves a few guideposts. So for starters, we didn't want to take anything away from the existing ExpressionEngine platform and product that people love and ultimately make it a Pro feature. So that's one. Two, we wanted Pro to come alongside and add to the ExpressionEngine we all know and love. We also, thirdly, wanted it to be something that any existing site could take advantage of. So just to repeat this at a high level, we didn't want to take anything away from ExpressionEngine. We needed to elevate the product we know, and it had to be installable on any existing EE site. So I guess the question is, what is Pro and what is in Pro? Before we get there, though, I want to talk about what it is not. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked if add-on X, Y, or Z is going to be included in Pro. So in short, ExpressionEngine Pro is not a bunch of add-ons that we bundled together. It is something new. So for starters, we've built it so you can add a custom logo to the login screen. This is really the first step towards further customization as a whole. In addition to this and the other cookie changes that we made in 6.1, in Pro, we're really bringing cookies to the next level. We've actually hooked into the core cookie service in ExpressionEngine, and we're allowing people to override the cookie lifetime values. And this isn't just for the core cookies. It applies to all cookies set by the core service. This is add-ons as well. We're also providing an interface to manage the title and description, and hand in hand with this, you can export consents for compliance audits or other needs. We've heard many times that, particularly in the international landscape, that a lot of countries are getting their own laws. Some are much more strict than others. And we felt it was really appropriate to elevate the core cookie interface, if you will, and functionality, but also in Pro to bring kind of that next level of functionality for people. All right, dashboard widgets. So the dashboard widget, or the dashboard rather, is the first page that you really land on when you log into the control panel. For lack of a better word, it's really valuable real estate. With Pro, we're giving people the ability to control what is displayed or hidden. There's also 2 new ways to create dashboard widgets. The first is with a PHP file. This is specifically helpful for add-on developers who would like to ship a widget with their add-on. You could pull in e-commerce data, you could pull in multilingual data, those types of things. Or similarly, for somebody who wants to pull in a third-party service and data that's provided from there, whether that's SEO or a product like Hey Check It. The second way you can really create a dashboard widget, though, is with native ExpressionEngine templates. So when you install Pro, a new template group gets added, and it's called Pro Dashboard Widgets. And this really opens the dashboard widgets up to all of the functionality and all of the flexibility that ExpressionEngine templating language offers. So with these 2 options, we really feel like it puts a lot of power in your hands ultimately to make what you would like with widgets. So, at this stage, I actually want to pull in Brian Litzinger of Bold Minded Add-ons to share a little bit about how he's been implementing dashboard widgets.
Hello, everybody hear me? I assume. Okay. So Tom, I think you have a screenshot to pull up. Yep, there we go. So one of the first things I did when I got a beta or an alpha of Pro was kind of play around with the widgets. In about 15 minutes of development time, I had a couple widgets, kind of base with them created. So one of the first things I did was create or pull some existing information that was already in Publisher, that's actually been in Publisher for years, but it was kind of buried down in the module settings page, which was the pending approvals list. So if you've used Publisher before, you know that you have members with a role of a publisher or an editor. Editors can only save things as drafts, and publishers need to be the content approvers to actually approve those entries. So with the widgets, I was able to pull that content further or to the forefront. So as soon as somebody logs in this case, the member has the role of a publisher, they see a list of pending approvals there in the bottom left. So they can take action on items that other content editors, they need their stuff approved. And then I got a little more creative and made another widget, which is above on the left, called My Recent Edits. So any user who logs in that's editing entries, they can see the last 10 actions or things they edited in the control panel. So it'll show the last 10 edits based on language and or draft status. So it's a true list of the exact last 10 things you did. So if somebody's coming in to edit content and they're taking a few days or a few hours to edit things, they're kind of in the flow, they can quickly get to the things they've been working on recently. So the widgets are really cool. They're pretty easy. I think I said in the chat that even the template-based widgets are pretty neat, pretty powerful. Any template code works in those too. So these 2 are PHP-based widgets. So I'm pretty excited about these.
Thank you, Brian. So, I think what this screenshot from Publisher also illustrates is with widgets, we're really putting the power in the hands of developers and you guys to customize to the individual user if you want what is displayed here and what is most valuable to them. All right, so let's keep moving here. Low search and variables. So we included these with Pro. By and large, we looked at these and we said they're already in use by so many sites. They're also supported by nearly all of the add-ons. They're great products. We didn't feel like we needed to reinvent the wheel. I think being able to move forward with products that people know and are familiar with, that have tremendous power and aren't going to require additional development by developers because they've already supported them for years and years, it made a natural next step. So thinking about EE Pro, I've mentioned versions of this in the past as well. When we think about our users, we usually break them up into 4 categories and try to assess what does it look like to bring value to these 4 categories, if you will. So designers, continue to enable them to create and uphold, or we're trying to uphold a system that can really accommodate anything that can be designed. Custom developers and their ability to extend ExpressionEngine, we feel like 6.1 really does continue to walk in that direction with generators and dashboard widgets, content CMS implementers and content admins as well. And we work hard to deliver value, if you will, to each of these. And when we look at ExpressionEngine, we believe it's our role to look at different technologies and assess them, and best determine which ones are worth adopting and which ones we can harness to deliver new value and new offerings that don't yet exist in ExpressionEngine or other CMSs. And by and large, that's why we look at things like migrations and add-on generators, command generators, model generators, migrations, new ways of handling cookies, captchas, dashboard widgets, white labeling, so forth and on. And we say it's worth adopting. It's worth bringing this functionality into the core of EE and Pro and making it accessible. It's also, though, this mindset that we look at ExpressionEngine, we look at EE Pro, and we say that if we had stopped here, it wouldn't be good enough. It really wouldn't enable you to deliver an unparalleled value to your clients. It wouldn't be the best it could be. It's simply not enough. And that's why I want to invite Andy Johnson to come and show us what we've really been working on. Welcome, Andy.
Hey, everybody. Thanks. It's great to be here. You should be able to see a slide that says the design of ExpressionEngine Pro on the screen if it's working properly. All right. Okay, ExpressionEngine Pro. Tom and Brian just ran through some really cool features that EE Pro brings to the table. But that's really just the tip of the iceberg, because one of the biggest features of Pro was figuring out how to bring the CMS to the end user, even when they're viewing the front end of their site. So ExpressionEngine Pro empowers end users to make content edits directly on their website without needing to visit the control panel. And I have the privilege of showing you how EE Pro accomplishes this. And it all starts with something simple. The edit button is what you're seeing on the screen right now. So when ExpressionEngine Pro is installed and it's activated and an end user is viewing the front end of their site, they'll see an edit button just like this displayed anywhere on the page where content can be edited. So that means on most web pages, you're probably going to see multiple edit buttons scattered throughout the page like this. And EE Pro, it does the heavy lifting of automatically displaying these buttons in line with the content that they're associated with. So you just activate EE Pro and it works right out of the box. But you also have the option of using Pro tags, which gives you the ability to override EE's default positioning. So you can really customize where each button displays in the layout if that's something that you need or want to do. So these edit buttons, they indicate what content can be edited, but what actually happens when you click an edit button? How does an end user interact with that associated content? That's a great question. And coming up with the best answer has been a bit of a journey. In some of our earlier experiments, we played around with the idea of traditional inline editing, which seemed like an obvious path to explore. In other words, you click an edit button or you click a piece of content and the content's DOM container itself turns into an editable text field. So this would be similar to products like Squarespace or Wix or Weebly or some of those other mainstream no-code type of products. But we hit some problems with that approach. The biggest problem was regarding field types. ExpressionEngine goes far beyond basic text-based fields for managing content. There are fluid fields and color pickers and file uploads, grids, relationship fields, not to mention all the third-party field types that are out there. And most of these field types don't fit neatly into a traditional inline editing metaphor. Then there's user education and training. You know, we all invest time and money into teaching our clients how to use the control panel and how all of these different field types work, and altering the design of these field types to squeeze them into an inline editing approach. It really seemed to add too much friction to the end user experience. Then field names and instructions. How many of us rely on names and instructions we add to a field for keeping our clients out of trouble? Those names and instructions were pretty difficult to cleanly fit into a traditional inline editing approach. And there were more problems we ran into, but we came to the conclusion that if a field looks like this in the control panel, it needs to look like this on the front end. No difference, really. In other words, if you already know how to edit content in the control panel, then you should be comfortable editing that same content on the front end. Zero learning curve required. So if traditional inline editing is a no-go, how do we display these field types on the front end? You know, what happens when you click an edit button? Well, besides inline editing, we did explore other ideas, like maybe some kind of a slide out panel, or a static modal, or some kind of header or footer components that contain the field type, and a bunch of other ideas. But with all these ideas, we ran into some additional common problems. So I'm sort of walking you through our behind the scenes design and thought process here. One problem was with page content. It always seemed that like the page content you needed to reference while editing was being covered up by the component in some way, which was frustrating. Well, what if instead of covering the page, the field type component sort of pushes into the page, moving and squeezing the page content, similar to EE's live preview feature? Well, this felt a little overkill for just editing a single field. And again, it can cause the page content to reflow during resize, which makes the content you need to reference sort of a moving target, which was annoying. And then there is component size. So the component needs to gracefully scale and adapt in size with different field types. You know, there's a big difference between a text field type and a grid field type and the amount of real estate required for each. And with these experimental test components, it was also difficult to manage multiple fields at once. For example, maybe you want to have multiple field types open at the same time for reference or for copy pasting content between field types. And we hit a bunch of other problems, but in the end, we landed on good old floating windows. The floating window approach solved all of those problems and more. And here's what one looks like. This one's displaying a relationship field, and another, and another one. Now, each of these edit windows has a few common parts. There's the header, which includes a draggable area. So even if an edit window is covering important content on the page, the user can freely move the window wherever they like. There's an expand button. And it's cool because EE Pro, it will try to automatically display each window at an ideal size based on the field type within. But if you want to make use of all your available screen real estate, you can click the expand button, which is handy for more complex field types like grids or fluid fields. There's a close button, the body of the window, which is reserved for the field type itself. There's a footer for saving and canceling edits. And then there's an edit full entry option. And when you click this link, the web page goes into a split screen view with the full entry form on the left and the web page preview on the right. Similar to the preview function you can use in the control panel, but now you have access to it from the front end, which is really cool. And then finally, each window can be manually resized to the user's preferred dimensions. So yeah, we built our own full-featured windowing system for ExpressionEngine Pro. And you can display one window on the page at a time, or you can open up multiple windows if you'd like. But that's not all. We wanted to give users access to a few more tools on the front end to help them manage all this content. So we're also introducing the dock. And this is what it looks like. And the dock is divided into a few key parts. So the left side is reserved for add-on prolets. So a prolet gives the user access to relevant features of add-ons right on the front end without needing the control panel. For example, if there's a structure taxonomy on the page that you want to change, you can click the structure prolet and make structure edits in its own floating window right on the front end. Editing utilities are reserved for the right side of the dock, and we'll cover those in just a second. The dock has its own drag handle. So by default, the dock is positioned in the bottom center of the viewport, but just like every other Pro component on the front end, the user can move the dock wherever they'd like. There's an edit toggle. So if you want to temporarily hide all the edit buttons on the web page, just turn this toggle off. An entries button. So this will open your list of channel entries and entry filters in its own floating window, giving you access to full entry editing and previews right on the front end, which is really cool. There's a control panel shortcut. So if you do need to get to the control panel, you can easily do that by clicking that button. You can tile windows. So if you have a bunch of windows open and it's getting a bit messy, just click this button. It tiles them nice and tidy. And then close windows. So this bypasses the need to close windows individually. A single click here will close everything on your screen. And this is what the dock looks like in action on the page. You can see it there at the bottom. And when designing the edit buttons and the windows and the dock, we did our best to make sure these components are legible and easy to work with on all kinds of sites. So everything from the component colors, the thickness of the window borders, the density of the drop shadows, we wanted to make sure they're functional everywhere. So that would include dark sites and light sites and every potential weird color in between. So that is a quick sneak peek at front-end editing for EE Pro. We think end users are going to love these features, and hopefully this opens up new ways to provide your customers with an even better CMS experience. And I'm going to turn it back over to Tom now because I think he's going to demo some of these features for you.
Hey, thank you, Andy. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. And yes, let's do a demo. So this is the Harpoon site. The Harpoon site, I wanted to use this because it is actually a site that we upgraded from ExpressionEngine version 2. This hasn't been modified to better run Pro or fine-tune the user experience. If that's something you're interested in, I would encourage you to jump into Andy McCormick's session on implementing Pro. But this is effectively what a site looks like if you just decide to install Pro on it. So let's go over to the blog. What you'll notice right off the bat is that I do not have the edit mode turned on. As Andy mentioned, there is the entries listing screen from the control panel pulled forward. I can come in here. I can switch to blog. I can say, hey, let's grab this article right here. This is new feature, customized company contact. Contact this. That'll be this guy. You can click on it, and this will drop you right into the live feature mode. So if I just add an exclamation point here, you'll notice it gets added. I'm going to cancel out of this. Leave page, come back. So in addition to this, we can also turn on the edit mode. And the edit mode will drop these icons in. As I mentioned, this isn't fine-tuned. So up here, we have the title I can pull open. This looks like an image link. This one, if I hover on it, it says title. So my guess is that the title is being passed into one of these social share links. So if I click one of these, yep. So that's an example of something where you might want to just disable that. It takes about 10 seconds to do that. So, let's go back over to the homepage real quick here. Let me refresh this since edit mode's now on. One of the reasons that ExpressionEngine Pro can run on top of any existing EE site is because we actually tapped into the template parsing engine. And we ultimately rely on that to intelligently inject the edit links into sites. So let's go ahead and open a few of these. When we look at front-end editing, if you will, and what Pro brings, I want to make a distinction that Pro is not just front-end editing. It's really pulling the essence of the control panel forward. And I say pulling the control panel forward because if we had just gone with front-end editing, as Andy laid out, we really lose the ability that ExpressionEngine has natively to harness complex field types and structured content. Losing that ability is often what makes front-end editing as a whole so limited. So I want to segue back to my slides here real quick. I think I can just go like this. When we look at ExpressionEngine and we ask the question, what is a CMS? One of the ways that we answer this question is that it's a set of tools that enables you to build a site that many businesses and nonprofits are going to be relying on. But ultimately, it's bringing the content admin into direct interaction with content and how to do that in the best and most effective manner. With Pro, we believe we're giving you the tools to bring your customers into direct, friction-free content administration. There is a problem, though. The problem is that a site isn't just content. There's also functionality. Functionality that's harnessed by both your end clients and developers to ultimately deliver that value. And we knew that just administrating content in a direct and frictionless way wouldn't be enough. So that is why we created Prolets. So what is a Prolet? A Prolet is a way to tap into the underlying power of the existing add-on ecosystem in ExpressionEngine and pull the essence of that add-on forward. So for instance, this is an example of structure. I actually we don't have structure installed in Harpoon, so I just installed it real quick and built out some pages to show this example. So, similarly, you could get into detours and SEO data. You could get into e-commerce related data. What does it look like to pull the essence of an add-on forward, the functionality? So, one of the questions that we often get right off the bat is, what is the pricing of Pro? So I'm happy to share that Pro will be $199 a year or $19 a month. The second question is, when is the launch? And we're happy to share that the public launch will be on October 6th, which is a week from yesterday, next Wednesday. The first week, we will also offer $50 off your first year. So that's Pro. And we're excited for it. We think that it delivers a phenomenal value to customers specifically. Before I end, there is one more thing I want to share. I'm a little bit hesitant to share because it's really in the early proof of concept stage, if you will. But something we've been working on a little bit. So just something I want to show people real quick here is on the front end, the ability to quickly pull up the template manager filtered by just the templates that were used to render the given page you're on. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom, for presenting Pro and everything that's happening there. I know I've been looking at it for quite a while. I'm excited to share that with the community and to see the excitement in chat and everything. We've got a few minutes for Q&A. We have some questions already coming through. I'm going to start with Carl. Right off the bat, will Twig be added to ExpressionEngine? This was mentioned previously as a syntax alternative. I know that's something that we've talked about. So if you want to share a quick status update on that. Yeah,
great question. Yes, Twig will be added. It's more a question of how we're going to add it. And we have some really good ideas about that. Similar to what we did with the cookies, where we held an open forum, we'll likely do the same thing around Twig, but more so around kind of the underlying technology of how we want to implement that. So that is coming. Funny enough, I have that on my list. I have a list of roughly 5 things that are along these lines as well, things that we've made mention of. So our anticipation is Q4 or Q1, Q4 of this year, Q1 of next year, to really be diving into that as a whole. So great question.
Cool. All right. Edward asks, is there any movement on entry cloning in 6.1 or Pro?
Yeah, great question. We are in the discussion phase on entry cloning right now. To be honest, we're harnessing kind of some of the best minds in the EE world, minds that have already done this to some degree too. So we are currently we're actively in the scoping phase of that, and we are hoping to roll that one out soon.
Awesome. Mike asks, was there any user testing done with people who are not developers but are content editors?
That's a great question. We've done a good bit of user testing. I don't think we've... Andy, does anything come to mind to you on that front? I don't know that we've specifically gone to content admins and said, hey, what is this? I know I've bounced it off of a few, but not like in-depth testing.
Yeah, I don't know that any content somebody that's all they do and they have no dev knowledge. The fact is that there is no development knowledge really to use it. I mean, it's simply clicking on the front edit button, edit your content, and save and close. So if anything, if they can use the current entry editor, then they can definitely use this. And it's even more condensed because they're not having to search for what field matches. I know when I was in an agency, I was explaining to my users, okay, pull up the control panel, and then either in a second screen or side by side, pull up the website and kind of match content and see what the fields matched up. And they could do that with some training. And now we've completely even removed that to where they can just click on the edit link. And we're going to go over, when I do my talk later today on implementing Pro, we'll talk about customizing those links and some ways that you can make it even clearer for the users what link is associated with which item on the page, and even go beyond what Pro does just out of the box. So,
to add to that real quick, the when we look at Pro, and I kind of made mention of this in the talk a little bit, one of the ways we look at a CMS is ultimately for you guys to bring your end customers into interaction with content. So one of the things we look at with Pro is how do we remove basically all of the friction and make it as streamlined as possible. So it's just kind of like, here's your content, boom, manage it. Be successful with the site that that people, you guys have spent countless hours designing, developing, building out, and that this business has invested a lot and often to ultimately support some sort of revenue model or their business as a whole, sales pipelines, those types of things, or nonprofits as well. Let's not minimize nonprofits. So what does it look like to bring them into direct, friction-free content administration? And that's a lot of what we've been trying to address. I know, I had a discussion with somebody that we've worked with several times in different arenas, doesn't love to spend a ton of money. They will invest money, appropriately, if you will, for their business. But talking to them about Pro, the initial reaction was right off the bat, oh yeah, like I would just pay for that, like hands down. Because I think to that content admin, if you will, that site owner, this was it's a lot easier to just bam, bam, click something, edit it, save, move on. So, I felt like that embodied the response that we were hoping to see as well.
And of course, I have all my notifications turned off, but I just looked over and saw that Doug, who, as we mentioned, was did an amazing job on some key pieces with Pro.
Yes.
Actually did with his team, tested it with some of their non-developers. So I know he got some admins and some content editors on his team, and they ran it all by them. So I know that would not have gotten to us if they did not approve that. So that's good to know.
Absolutely.
All right, so guys, just letting you guys know, I'm going through the Q&A and I'm going by, I have it voted by or ordered by popular. So if you want to see some of these questions answered, make sure you thumbs it up in the Q&A there. And thumbs it up, is that a word? But go ahead and click that thumbs up and it will pop it to the top of the list, and that's what we're going by. So Jason asked, do add-on field developers have to add support for the front end edit function, or will it just work by default? So custom field types, that kind of stuff, does it just work by default?
I would say that basically all of our tests worked out of the box. One of the things that we really focus on is kind of taking the hard problem on us and not passing that off to add-on developers, if you will, third-party developers. So I believe everything that we tested works. Can I tee this in with the blocks one there, Andy? Is that cool?
What's that?
You mind if I tee this in with the blocks one?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm sure Brian Litzinger can better answer that, but I know in our initial tests, yeah, blocks was great. I think that we worked with Brian behind the scenes to kind of under the hood. There's a way to classify certain fields as like more complex one, which kind of changes how the processing works. And I believe that we did that with blocks, and that I believe it's in good shape. Brian, is there any way you can confirm that? I don't know if he's here right now. Here he is.
Yes, it's in great shape. The changes you made work perfectly. So for anybody going forward, complex field types are really easy, if not already implemented with the front end feature, front end edit stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I know in testing, we just randomly would throw add-ons in there, and pretty much all of them worked. I think Tom mentioned earlier, one of the essence is pulling the control panel forward, and kind of what Andy Johnson mentioned, why we chose the UI that we did is because it handles all of the React field types, like all the stuff in the control panel that needed all the custom JavaScript and React and that kind of stuff. And the way that we implemented it, if it works in the control panel, it worked fine on the front end. So yeah, that's been pretty awesome just to throw stuff in there.
It is.
All right. So a really popular question from Blair is, if you stop paying for Pro, do you lose Pro features?
Yeah, Blair, I really appreciate this question because I meant to address this in the talk and I forgot to. With Pro, part of kind of the core underlying, I mentioned the goalposts, if you will, the guiding goalposts. One of them also should have been that we're not holding people's content hostage. So a site isn't going to go down if somebody stops, paying for Pro or being subscribed to Pro. However, Pro will no longer work. So like if you go to the front end, you're just going to see your site. The dashboard, it's just going to revert back to the default EE dashboard. We're not looking to hold hostage anybody's content as a whole. This brings up another kind of big item that I unfortunately missed in my talk too. Pro by default will be shipped with ExpressionEngine 6.1. It is installable and usable in local dev environments. However, when you go live, it will require a license. So kind of missed that one. Sorry.
Yep.
It's totally on me. But it is shipping with 6.1 and is can be installed and used in local dev. And then when you go live, it does require a license.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about the license in the Implementing Pro talk later today as well. But yeah, it pretty much ships just like a native, just native with ExpressionEngine. So from Spencer, can the front end editor CSS be modified?
Yeah, this is probably actually a better question for Andy Johnson. My inclination at this phase is probably not.
Correct.
I do know we have further white labeling planned, so that's an area that we would dive into that further and look at it.
Yep. I don't know. Andy's hopping on here. I know editing the CSS itself would be just like hacking core, where it get override on an update, overrode on update. But I don't know, Andy, could you actually, since it's on the front end, as your own style sheet, or not?
Yeah,
I
technically
want to do that.
Yeah, technically it's possible, but we have not made it easy to do that. One of the reasons is because, as Pro is installed on an infinite number of sites, there's an infinite number of CSS possibilities already being used on those sites. So we've had to come up with ways to isolate Pro to not intermingle with native CSS. So you'd have to do a little bit of work. So technically it's possible. And we have talked about some ideas in the future, like Tom just mentioned, on making it easier to modify CSS, branding, white labeling. We've got some ideas in mind, but right now you'll probably find it a chore to customize the look of Pro on the front end.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, I know a lot of troubleshooting and stuff we ran into. We ran it through a lot of real world sites. It was, I think we thought a while ago that we were there all the way using the default theme, and then we started throwing it on just regular sites, and the JavaScript frameworks that you guys use and CSS and everything was wreaking havoc on some parts of it. So we really had to isolate that out. So one thing Yuri mentioned in response to your question there, Spencer, was the icon CSS can be modified, but not the CSS of the edit windows. So those edit windows come through as an iframe from the control panel, I believe. So those would be even tougher to modify. But of course, feature requests, if that's something that you guys use this and you see a great need to be able to theme Pro, theme the front end of it, maybe open up some feature requests and we can have discussions on that in the future. All right, Oliver says, what plans, if any, are there to enable content editors to log in via the front end without having to log into the CMS itself?
Yeah, great question, Oliver. This is on our radar. I wouldn't say it's planned for a specific release version yet, but it is definitely on our radar. I feel like Yuri and I had a conversation on that. Yuri, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to that as a whole.
Yeah, well, I know right now, like we can add a member login form to the front end, and they can log in through that, and we'll be able to access Pro. I know this isn't Pro directly, and be able to access Pro features without having to visit the control panel, which is part of the purpose of Pro bringing the control panel forward. And as long as they don't ever have the control panel link, they would never actually access that. So. Yeah,
this is probably going back a couple months. I feel like that's exactly along the lines that the conversation with Yuri was on. I don't remember where some of it netted out. This is a high level of transparency right now, if you will. It's definitely on the radar. I honestly don't 100% know where we are on it from like a status, and if it's selected for development or if it's kind of around the corner.
Sure. All right. Mike said, do third-party plugins need updates to support the front-end editing? I'm thinking of Ansel specifically, since it never gets updated by TJ. Sorry, TJ, I didn't read ahead there. I will say that I did test Ansel on some sites, and it worked pretty well. I think there were some updates that needed to be made styling-wise, but out of the box, Ansel did work pretty well on some of the test sites.
I haven't played with Ansel. Most all field types just work, and that's by design. That's on purpose. So I can't speak to Ansel specifically though.
Yeah, essentially, it's just like anytime with third-party add-ons. It's all in the implementation. It kind of relies or falls back on the add-on developer. We try to make it as easy as possible. But there's always the chance that something's not going to play nice with the field or something when it comes to third-party add-ons. But we have tested a good many of them, and it was pretty awesome just to install and see it work out of the box. All right, Lance asks. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say similarly. I really installed this on Pro for this talk. And I was I'm sorry, I installed Pro on Harpoon's site for this talk. A new Harpoon site it's a nice site. It's a great site. It's also one that we're co-founders of. So I knew we could use it, but I was pretty impressed, honestly, even after working on this for 18 months, that how well it just boom picked up. That was really with no modifications. A site upgraded from 2 to 6, ultimately boom, install Pro. That was an example of it. Go ahead. Yeah, Lance's question here.
Yep, Lance. Since Pro ships with low variables and low search, will those break if Pro is not renewed, or would those continue to work?
Yeah, great question. So variables and search will continue to work. Again, we're not looking to hold a site hostage. However, the control panel interface is going to default to what EE Harbor usually does if it's not licensed. So the front end of your site will continue to work and operate fine. If you go to like reindex your search, though, it's going to just pop you on the license page and say, it requires a license. By default, low vars and low search will automatically, kind of validate and be 100% active through your Pro license as long as it's active.
Yep. And, you can still purchase low search and low variables independently. So if you choose not to continue with Pro, I don't know why you would ever do that, but if you do, then you can still get a license just for low search or low vars and just input that into the license settings and continue using those independently. Ryan asks, with the front end editor, do complex grids have the ability to display vertical?
Yep, great question. Yes, they do. They will basically go into responsive mode and go vertical. To be honest, off the top of my head, I don't remember if we have additional refinements to that in 6.1 or if that's like a 6.1.1 release right now. I know that we do have additional refinements to responsive grids coming, though, just to tighten up that user experience as a whole. So, but yes, great question. It does jump into responsive mode.
Yep, I was going to see if I could pull one up real fast, but I don't think I can. So, but we'll see some grid field types again in that implementing Pro Talk. We'll see what that looks like and how they show up. So, thank you, Ryan. Luke, does the front end editor handle dynamically added content after page load? For example, load more entries. Yes.
Yeah, it should.
So we actually, and again, implementing Pro Talk. We have a JavaScript function that you can run, which is basically, if you're familiar with Foundation or anything like reinit Foundation, reinit Bootstrap, where basically you can reinit ExpressionEngine Pro. So I have a site today that we'll look at that actually uses load more entries function. And if you need to, what you can do is just on your Ajax request on the success callback, just have it reinit ExpressionEngine Pro, and it'll load everything back up for you. So. All right, Caroline asked, looks like EE Pro comes with a shopping cart. Caroline, I replied to that. Let me know if there's more questions to that. That was just Andy's demonstration. It does not ship with any kind of e-commerce thing. Okay, Asana asked, I may have missed it in the demo. How are images and image grid specifically uploading work in the front end in Pro, especially if specific image manipulations are used in the template? As far as I know, everything works seamlessly.
Yep.
Right.
It should. It should just tap into all the core functionality, just like you uploaded it in the control panel.
Yep. I think you guys will be pretty amazed with how it works. So. All right, Justin asked, can front-end editing be disabled on a per-field basis? So we have it in the template tags, and I'll go over that later, where you can disable front-end editing on a specific tag. And you can disable it for a template. But I don't think in the field settings right now, we talked about that at one point, but I don't think in the field settings right now you can disable it for that field globally. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I know we talked about it as well. Just to throw it out there too, you can also, Andy mentioned the tag, and for a template, you can also do sections of a template as well. Just say, boom, disable it for that. So I'm sure you're going to cover that in your talk as well, Andy, right?
Yes. Yeah, it is not in the field settings directly to disable it globally, but you can in the template using ExpressionEngine's disable parameter, just disable front front edit, and we'll go over that because that's actually needed in some places. So depending on your site. All right, we do need to wrap up in a few minutes just to give everybody a break here. So let's see. I'm gonna try to stick to some of these on the Pro. We'll be able to search entries by entry ID. Will you add revision to low variables? I don't think we've considered variables or revisions to low variables, have we?
I guess in part, Gilbert, I'm wondering if you mean revisions in a sense of like revisions of the variable, or if you mean like a revision of the add-on.
I would think that's a revision, like you change the variable and you don't have a history of what happened there. So.
Yeah.
Brad asked, would the licenses be available within the bundle, or will it need to be managed at the site domain level? The licenses available, these licenses available bundle.
Yeah, not 100% sure what the question is there. If it's the low search and low vars with Pro, this is another good point. We actually just rolled out a new EE store. You can now buy add-ons from multiple vendors, multiple countries, multiple currencies, all in a single checkout, multiple quantities as well. However, behind the scenes, which will go live with Pro and the launch of it, we're implementing a site license paradigm. So to be completely frank, this is us learning from missteps on EE Harbor, for lack of a better word, and how you manage licenses. So on the EE store, how it's going to work is you'll have a site license, and then add-ons like a tied to that. So when you buy, and hopefully I'm answering your question here, when you buy Pro and you get access to low search and low vars through your Pro license, those all just get tied to your site license, and those would be included as valid add-ons, if you will, through your Pro license. So that is a pretty big change in the licensing world. It's going to be a site license, and then add-ons get tied to that site. Honestly, the whole idea is to make it easier to manage. Talk to several people, several agencies about that as a whole, and everybody said that was a good way to go.
Awesome. Dimitri just asked, is it possible to allow guests to use the front-end editing, not editing, but suggesting edits, moderation after? We currently don't have that flow. However, that sounds like it could be a pretty good feature for future releases. So we'll note that, but also, if you want to go to just the ExpressionEngine repository and open up a feature request for that, that would be great, so others can weigh in as well. Carl asked, what date is Pro release? It'll be released on October the 6th, not June the 10th, according to what country you're in, based on Tom's formatting there. But Wednesday, October the 6th is when we're going to release that. Okay. Stefan asked, any news on the forum module? See no evil emoji.
Yeah, that is a great question. 6.1 does have some forum module items addressed. I think some of those are security related, in all honesty. We're at an interesting state with the forum module. We have this, it's actually code that we got from LS Lab, a partial rewrite, I would say, of the forum module, all template tag based as opposed to the current system. And then there's the existing. I think I'm trying to remember if it was in version 5 where they rolled it into the core. We're in an interesting state because we're kind of half new, half old. We know that the old needs to be addressed. So it's kind of like we have to make a decision soon. Do we put a serious revision on the existing? Do we move forward with the new? If we move forward with the new, that might have to wait till 7, assuming there's breaking changes there due to semantic versioning. I think in an ideal world as well, we would move it from shipping with the core to being a third-party add-on that is installed. A third-party add-on that's, I'm sorry, a first-party, there we go, add-on that is installable. So that's how I'd answer that. I don't know if there's something specifically you're looking for in that, if it's the new version that's template tag based or specific revisions with the existing.
Okay. Michael asks, will we be able to search entries by entry ID? Are you talking about in the control panel, Michael, or via Pro? I guess
I'm trying. I don't think it's. I remember this coming up. I think in the control panel. I'm trying to remember honestly if this one is already addressed in 6.1 or in a pull request for like 6.11 or something like that, or if it's still slated for development in the control panel. I know that is on our radar as something that needs to be addressed as a whole. To be honest, I don't remember if we already have. By way of quick reference too, when I say that, we have hundreds and hundreds of tickets in GitHub and in Jira. A lot of them are actually completed, code locked for 6.1 and Pro. And then there's also some that are completely code locked and even PR'd for 6.1.1, 6.1.2. So I don't remember the states of all of them, but I do know that one's on our radar.
Awesome. And Gilbert clarified a minute ago, he was talking about low variables themselves, revisions of the low variables themselves. So I have not heard that before. You may have heard that in conversations though. That's something we can add to future requests and discuss. So. All right, just 2 more questions and then we're going to let everybody go to freshen up before our next sessions here. Josh asks, any plans to update low var to be compatible with new EE field types?
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely something that we're looking to do. Absolutely.
And then Spencer asked, how is the work on static site generation going?
So that is not in progress at all. That is one of those things that's on our radar. I think that conversation is going to get a little more interesting when we talk about how we want to go about Twig specifically, and the approach we want to take on that. So similarly, something else that's on our radar, it's not in development at all, to be very clear, is kind of what does the next level of caching look like? Not just caching, performance as a whole. So I mentioned that because that can play in with a lot of the static stuff.
All right. Awesome, Tom. Thank you very much. Thank you for all of this morning. Guys, feel free to message Tom or any of the team in Slack, and we're happy to continue the conversation. Catch us in the Hangouts.
Absolutely.
Ask questions in the event, all that kind of stuff. Also, ExpressionEngine team is going to be, doing a roundtable later this afternoon, and we're just going to sit here and pretty much ask me anything. So feel free to bring up some of these topics, bring up any other questions you have, think about them today. There is a form. If you go again to the reception, you'll scroll down and there's links to forms to submit questions for any of our discussion-oriented sessions. And that's one of those. So you can go ahead and queue up some questions that you have and we'll work through those, as well as have live Q&A, live share your audio and video, all that kind of fun stuff as well. So everybody will just give Tom a virtual round of applause there. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everybody.
And, we'll see you later, Tom. So, all right. So next up, guys, let me quickly share my screen for effect here. So coming up at 11:30, so just in about 10 minutes, we've got a business talk and a development talk. We've got Neil Williams from Zealous Web going over digital accessibility and how to demonstrate its value and get buy-in from clients. And then Yuri from the ExpressionEngine team going to talk about testing EE and add-ons with Cypress. So a lot of you guys have seen that we switched ExpressionEngine testing over to Cypress testing and how all that works. So 2 really great talks coming up at 11:30. And then about 12:30, we've got lunch. So again, head over to the sessions and the Hangouts, grab some pizza, some burgers, fries, lots of ketchup for all you guys that know about ketchup and EE conference. And we're going to hang out, have some time, all that. Coming back at 1:30 for another business talk and implementing ExpressionEngine Pro talk. So we got a full day ahead of us. But again, right now, take a break. You will actually exit out of this session. Again, head over to the sessions. Somebody tell me if I'm pointing in the right direction, at least on your screen. Head over to the sessions. And then when around 11:30, Neil and Yuri's talk will appear over there. You can join those. And since Jay said I'm pointing in the wrong direction, then it probably means I'm pointing the right direction. I don't know. Am I really pointing? Okay, that way? I don't know. So, all right, guys. Great morning. Thanks for joining us. See you guys in a little bit. Bye.